I am absolutely thrilled you're joining us today because we're going to dive right into. Welcome back to another explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining us today because we're going to dive right into what is, without a doubt, the greatest prison escape in American history. So let's just set the scene here. Picture San Francisco Bay in the early 1960s. You've got these dark, choppy waters, thick, rolling fog, and just sitting right dead in the middle of it all is this massive, imposing island fortress. Today, we're going to break down exactly how a literally impossible breakout was pulled off, step by step, using the actual historical evidence they left behind. So, our story officially kicks off on the morning of June 12, 1962. A prison guard is walking in the morning head count. It's a completely routine procedure. Happens exactly the same way every single day. But he stops at this one cell because the guy inside is just completely unresponsive. So the guard reaches right through those heavy iron bars to give the sleeping figure a sharp poke. And the guy doesn't wake up. Instead, the head literally rolls off the pillow and just crashes to the concrete floor. 'Cause it wasn't a man at all. It was this perfectly crafted dummy head made out of soap, toilet paper, and get this, real human hair. I mean, imagine that terrifying, heart-stopping moment for the guards. They suddenly realized that 3 of America's most dangerous bank robbers had basically just vanished into thin air. And that discovery, it's absolutely mind-bending when you remember where we are. This wasn't just any regular lockup. This was Alcatraz, the Rock. In the 1960s, this place was considered the absolute most secure maximum security prison on the entire planet. It was purpose-built to hold the absolute worst of the worst. We're talking guys like Al Capone, Machine Gun Kelly. The running joke back then was, if you break the rules, you go to prison, but if you break the prison rules, you go to Alcatraz, because nobody escapes the Rock. Well, almost nobody. So let's jump right into part 1, the crew and the prep, architects of escape. To really wrap our heads around the mechanics of this crazy event, we gotta look at the guys who planned it. First up is Frank Morris, a career criminal who actually had a certified genius-level IQ. Then you have the Anglin brothers, John and Clarence. Both of them were expert thieves, incredibly skilled, and they actually knew Morris from doing time in other prisons. Together, for 6 long months, these 3 guys managed to orchestrate an absolute masterclass in deception right under the noses of armed guards. The sheer ingenuity of their prep work is it's legendary. Okay, so their first big hurdle was digging through the thick concrete walls of their cells to get to this dark, unused utility corridor directly behind them. But obviously you can't just start smashing through concrete in a dead silent cell block, right? So first, they slowly start swiping these silver cafeteria spoons and meticulously sharpening them into makeshift digging tools. Second, they literally managed to steal a motor from a broken vacuum cleaner to build their own homemade drill. And to cover up the noise of that drill, Morris ingeniously played his accordion as loudly as humanly possible during the daily music hour. But hey, getting out of the cell is only half the battle. They still had to cross the water. So over a few months, they somehow pilfered over 50 rubber raincoats. They took them into that hidden utility corridor and used the hot steam pipes back there to vulcanize the rubber. Basically, they melted all these raincoats together to build a 14-foot inflatable raft and life vests. And I just love this stark contrast here. On the one hand, you've got the unbeatable brute strength of Alcatraz. Thick concrete walls, heavy iron bars, and a mile of freezing, absolutely deadly ocean rip currents completely surrounding the island. And going up against all of that, you have the most remarkably fragile everyday items you can imagine. Sharpened cafeteria spoons, a broken vacuum motor, and a pile of old rubber raincoats. It really is just an incredible testament to human problem solving. All right, so with the prep completely finished, it was go time. Let's look at part 2, the breakout, the phantom flight. Let's quickly walk through how this actually went down minute by minute on the night of June 11th, 1962. The weather was perfectly miserable. A thick fog had totally rolled into the bay. The wind was just howling, which honestly provided the absolute perfect cover. Right after lights out, the guys placed those wildly realistic dummy heads on their pillows and squeezed right through the tight holes they'd carved out of their cell walls. Minutes later, they're in that utility corridor and they're physically climbing 30 feet straight up a massive network of plumbing pipes in total pitch darkness. The adrenaline must have been just off the charts. I mean, one slipped foot, one loud clang of metal, and those watchtower guards are opening fire. Moments later, they pry open a ventilation shaft, step out into this blinding storm on the prison roof, sneak across it, and then basically shimmy down a 50-foot bakery smokestack just to reach the water's edge. Finally, right around 10 p.m., safely hidden in a blind spot from the searchlights, they inflate their raincoat raft and launch into the freezing, pitch-black bay. They vanished right into the dark, and they were never seen again. Which leads us perfectly into part 3, the investigation, an enduring mystery. So obviously, when those dummy heads are discovered the next morning, the FBI immediately kicks off one of the largest manhunts in American history. And they did find some physical clues out there. Investigators recovered remnants of that rubber raincoat raft washed up on a nearby island. And they also found this floating plastic bag that had the Anglin brothers' personal photos inside. This physical evidence became the whole foundation for the authorities' official conclusion. Because those physical clues really tell a story when you factor in the conditions. 50 to 54 degrees Fahrenheit. That was the temperature of the water in San Francisco Bay that night. Just punishing, totally paralyzing cold. And because of that intense cold, this particular number becomes the single most important metric in the whole FBI investigation. 20 minutes. Medical and survival experts pointed out that without proper thermal wetsuits, 20 minutes is exactly how long it takes for lethal hypothermia to set in. So, combining the destroyed raft debris with this biological timeline, the official FBI report concluded that the men drowned, and the prison authorities officially declared the escape a failure. But, we really have to look at all the data on the table here. Fast forward to 2015, and the Anglin family comes forward with this absolute bombshell evidence that completely challenges that official narrative. While the FBI stood firm on the destroyed raft, the freezing water, and presumed death in 20 minutes, the family paints a totally different picture. They actually produced surviving Christmas cards that were allegedly signed and delivered by the brothers years after the escape. And even more incredibly, they brought out a photograph taken in Brazil in 1975 showing two men who look remarkably like John and Clarence. Facial recognition experts actually analyzed this photo and stated it's highly likely to be a true match. Alcatraz ended up closing its doors permanently just one single year after this massive embarrassment. Today, it's just a museum. But here is the wild part. The official investigation into Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers is remarkably still active. No joke, the U.S. Marshal Service actually maintains the open case file to this day, and they've officially stated they will not close it until the men's 100th birthdays. Which really just leaves us staring at the ultimate unknown, doesn't it? We've got the meticulous blueprints, the dummy heads, the ingenious homemade tools, and then all this incredibly conflicting evidence about what actually happened to them. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Looking at all the data we've covered today, ask yourself, did that freezing bay swallow them whole within 20 minutes? Or did these three men actually pull off the ultimate magic trick and beat an unbeatable system? It is such a fascinating puzzle. Keep analyzing the evidence, and I will see you in the next explainer.